The Nobel Committee awards its prestigious Peace Prize to the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. The Netherlands-based task force currently in charge of investigating and destroying Syria's chemical arsenal. Meanwhile, the Syrian rebels stand accused of war crimes. NGO Human Rights Watch claims jihadists orchestrated the mass killing of some 190 civilians and a holding of further 200 hostage, most of them women and children. And victory for French environmentalists. France's Constitutional Council has upheld a law banning fracking. That is the controversial process used to extract shale oil and gas. The court rejected a legal challenge by a would-be investor. Hello, I'm Nadia Sharbi. Thank you for watching France 24. It's a prize that couldn't be more timely, as it rewards a task force that's facing one of its biggest challenges to date. This Friday, the Organisation for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, or OPCW, has been awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. This in recognition of its efforts to enforce the 1997 ban on the use of chemical arms. And the watchdog's focus is currently on Syria, where a team has begun a perilous mission to eliminate the regime's chemical stockpiles, this in the midst of what is still a battlefield. But while this particular mission has trained a spotlight on the organisation, is the OPCW's wider aim and impact that the Nobel Committee has chosen to reward. As its chairman explains, take a listen.
OPCW has not been given this prize first and foremost because of Syria. As I said, it is because of its long-standing efforts to eliminate chemical weapons, and that's why we are highlighting this and giving a message to all those who have not ratified the convention and to those who have not honored their obligations under the convention. Please ratify, please honor their obligations.
Well, for more on this, we can speak now to our correspondent in The Hague, Susanna Costa-Hele. Thank you for being with us. We just heard the committee chairman issue that message to countries that have not yet signed the treaty. But does this prize also act as a reminder to those who have signed it to act upon it?
Yes, he said it also acts indeed as a reminder to countries like the United States and Russia to eliminate their own large stockpiles, because especially they're asking to do the same of countries like Syria. But Ahmet Üzümcü, the head of the OPCW, said that the prize was also an encouragement to the present and former employees for the difficult and hazardous and dangerous work that they do, which of course also often happens outside of the limelight of public attention.
And did this choice of laureate come as a surprise?
Yes, he said it was a pleasant surprise, but yes, it was a surprise. There was clapping, there were handshakes, there was champagne in the office this morning. Others who were nominated were, for instance, Malala Yousafzai, the 16-year-old forefighter of education for girls in her own country, Pakistan, and worldwide, and the Congolese doctor Denis Mukwege, who set up a hospital to help women who were raped by army soldiers and militants. And for the bookies, Malala seemed to be a front runner yesterday, so it was a surprise for the OPCW.
Susanna Costa reporting there from The Hague. Thank you very much for that. Well, going back to Syria, Human Rights Watch is accusing Syrian rebels of killing at least 190 civilians back in August. The NGO also claims that a further 200 people, mostly women and children, were taken hostage during an offensive in Latakia province. And it says the victims are all from President Assad's Alawite sect. Now, as Jennifer Lush reports, it's the first time the watchdog provides evidence of crimes against humanity by opposition forces.
Syrian rebels systematically executed civilians and took hostages. So says Human Rights Watch. The group claims it has strong evidence of abuses committed during an offensive near Latakia last August. Some 20 groups took part in the pre-dawn strike. In some cases, entire families were gunned down as they fled. Human Rights Watch says the scale and organisation of attacks suggests premeditation, making them crimes against humanity.
Opposition fighters that came in routinely killed all of the adult males that they saw. They also killed anyone they saw that was fleeing, including women and children.
5 rebel groups, including the al-Qaeda-linked Jabhat al-Nusra, publicised their involvement through videos and statements. Less clear is the role of fighters from the Free Syrian Army, the armed wing of the main opposition coalition, backed by the United States, Britain and France.
Individuals or countries that are supporting these groups are now on notice about the types of violations that they are committing and could be complicit in war crimes and crimes against humanity if they continue to support them.
Syria's mainly Sunni Muslim rebels are battling to overthrow Bashar al-Assad, whose Alawite sect is an offshoot of Shiite Islam. Rebels and Syrian government forces have both been accused of abuses throughout the 2-year conflict.
A car bomb exploded outside the Swedish consulate in Libya's eastern city of Benghazi this Friday, seriously damaging the building but causing no casualties. The Swedish mission is one of the few remaining diplomatic offices still in Benghazi, a city that frequently sees attacks on security personnel and institutions. And the incident comes just a day after former rebels took Prime Minister Ali Zaidan hostage in Tripoli and held him for several hours. Meanwhile, the International Criminal Court has ruled in favour of Libya staging the trial of a key actor of the fallen Gaddafi regime. The ICC had previously asked for Abdallah al-Senussi, Muammar Gaddafi's former spy chief, to be handed over to The Hague. This Friday, judges concluded that Libya is willing and able to genuinely carry out such an investigation and give the suspect a fair trial at home. Senussi, along with other Gaddafi allies, is accused of crimes during the revolt that toppled the dictator 2 years ago. Now, it's seen by environmentalists as a dangerous practice, but by some crisis-weary politicians as a possible means to a financial end. Fracking, the controversial process used to extract shale oil and gas, is back in the spotlight here in France, after the Constitutional Court chose to uphold a law banning the technology. The court, in fact, rejected a legal challenge by a Texan company that saw its research permit withdrawn when the blanket ban was instated in 2011. Oliver Farry explains.
Hydraulic fracturing has been illegal in France since July 2011, forcing several companies to halt exploration there and then. French President François Hollande has said that fracking would not be legalised again, but in recent months he has met with dissension within his own government. Industrial Renewal Minister Arnaud Montebourg has proposed the French state exploit shale gas itself. The French oil industry says the country's energy resources are at stake.
We import 98% of the gas we consume. It would really be a great shame to deprive ourselves of a national resource if we can exploit and produce this gas.
The only known method of extracting the shale gas from the ground is controversial. It consists of injecting pressurized water and chemicals into the seam and then collecting the gas at the surface. Opponents of the practice say it lays waste to waterways and grassland, though studies are inconclusive.
The situation is not acceptable. That's the message sent out by a group of international trade unionists that have spent the week investigating the plight of migrant labour in Qatar. This after allegations that the wealthy emirate is grossly exploiting foreign workers employed on its World Cup building sites. Well, after meeting with workers from Nepal, India, Bangladesh and the Philippines, the 18-member team is urging Qatar to take immediate action. Kira Tammy and Josh Vardy have more.
An unusual event for this small restaurant in a poor area of Doha, Qatar. 18 international trade unionists are meeting with 50 construction workers. Mahez Kermi is one of them. He left Nepal 3 years ago to earn money in Qatar, but has not received a salary for over 2 months.
In the camp where I live, we sleep on the ground, and I don't get a regular salary.
The unionists have come to the Emirates of Qatar for 3 days, especially to hear problems like these. It's an unannounced visit that has seen them barred from several sites and companies, but by exerting a bit of pressure, they've managed to meet some officials.
They tell us that human rights apply to Qatari nationals rather than immigrants. It's a shame because the majority of their population today is made up of immigrants, and we have to make them see that human rights are for everyone, not only Qataris.
Last month, British newspaper The Guardian revealed that 44 Nepalese workers died on construction sites in the country, and Qatar's been accused of exploiting its foreign workers.
When we're talking about Guardian, there are some of the the numbers, it's huge. It's not really reflect the reality. There are many some negative. There are, but in the end, there are they forget the efforts from the government.
However, the delegation held a press conference to declare these efforts insufficient. Building and Woodworkers International called on the Emirate to recognise foreign workers' rights and to integrate the rules of the International Labour Organization rapidly into the country's laws.
Now today marks 50 years since the death of French poet, painter, filmmaker and dramatist Jean Cocteau. With more than 50 books, 24 plays and musicals, a dozen films, countless interior designs, stage sets, paintings, drawings and even a postage stamp, Cocteau was one of the most multi-talented artists of the 20th century, as Claire Murphy reports.
A man of many talents, Jean Cocteau is considered one of the most versatile artists of the 20th century. Born in 1889 to a wealthy family just outside Paris, he began writing at 10 and was a published poet by 16. Cocteau's love of words led him to become a successful novelist and playwright, but he also excelled as an actor, painter, designer, filmmaker and illustrator.
He was a poet, of course, but he was a poet of many genres. A poet of drawing, of cinema, of theatre. He was talented in so many ways. That's why he's still relevant.
This villa in Saint-Jean-Cap-Ferret, where he spent much of his last decade, just one example of how Cocteau couldn't help but leave his mark. Further up the coast, the town of Menton was won over by his creativity and claimed Cocteau as their own.
Here in Menton, he adapted a new graphic style, which we see in this marriage hall. It's called the Menton style, in an arabesque style that's only used here.
A new Cocteau museum opened in Menton in 2011. Visitors can explore many of his countless artworks, books, plays, and of course his films.
He thought that poetry lost its intensity when it was translated. So films where the visual was more important than the dialogue allowed him to transcend that problem without the need for translation.
Debuting as a director in 1925, his most notable films, the Orphic Trilogy, and his bringing to life of French fairy tale Beauty and the Beast.
Voulez-vous être ma femme? Non, la bête.
Cocteau collaborated on many of his productions with longtime partner, the actor Jean Marais. His friends included artists Picasso and Matisse, writers like Proust and singer Edith Piaf, who he died soon after. His gravestone declaring, Je reste avec vous, I remain with you.
And on that we leave this edition, but for more you can of course visit our website, that's france24.com. You'll find more on all the stories we've been developing here, as well as some business and more culture news, and of course special features, such as our web documentary. You're seeing it there, Iranorama. Stay tuned to France 24, there's more coming up.